Hello, my name is Daniel Mart. I am an actor and filmmaker based out of South Florida. And for this video, I kind of just want to discuss essentially what it is. It's an addiction to buying movies. I've stated this in the past few videos that I wanted to make this discussion topic. And well, here's this discussion topic. Me dealing with my addiction with movies. So let me put out the groundworks. I love buying movies. I have a full shelf right here of movies right here besides me. Another shelf right here. Right now, my bookcase is basically a shelf with movies, both underneath and here on the sides. I have two more shelves of movies right there on this side. A big shelf about the same size as this one, and a smaller shelf that's about the same size as this one right here. I know you guys can't really see, but you have it right here. So, that goes to show that I have a lot of movies. Furthermore, I've been collecting movies since I was about 12 years old. I am about to be 26 next month. So that is 14 years straight of collecting movies. Furthermore, in 2023, so 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, I finally got my first actual job. I'm a stylist at Banana Republic, and from that point on, I started actually accumulating money into my bank account. So why am I saying all this? Because last year is when my addiction to buying movies, actually I shouldn't be doing quotation marks, because it truly is an addiction to buying movies, really hit the fan. So here's my testimony for that. Again, I've been collecting since I was 12. Essentially, 14 years old. The reason I started collecting is because when I moved into this house, I ended up with a DVD player, with our old DVD player, and I was just thinking, what do I do with this thing? You know, it's for me DVDs. So I guess let me buy a few DVDs to watch them. And my first four movies were Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the original Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the Alvin and Chipmunks, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Easy A. Aside from Mrs. Doubtfire, I saw all the other three movies beforehand. Mrs. Doubtfire is the only one that I hadn't seen beforehand. And then from there on, I kept buying movies. About 2-3 years afterwards, my DVD player broke, and I bought a new DVD player, but now this time it also came with Blu-rays. Or, you know, it was a Blu-ray player, so now I could play DVDs and Blu-rays. And from then on, my collection expanded to include both DVDs and Blu-rays. Cut to many years later, and the pandemic hits. So from about 2013 to about 2020, give or take, I was just buying movies consistently, buying movies. Granted, I wasn't buying movies in bulk per se, but it's one of those things. Every time I go to Best Buy, I'd more than likely buy a movie. Every time I'd go to Target, I'd more than likely buy a movie. I'd be looking on Amazon, for example, and oh, that movie's cool. You know, I've never really heard that movie, or I have seen that movie, and I want to buy it, and I'd buy it. Granted, keep in mind, I was a teenager during this time, and thus my income, so to speak, really wasn't that great. It was really just whenever I got birthday money or Christmas money, or when I did the occasional odd job in acting that I just randomly got paid for. I'm like, let me use that to buy movies. That was quite literally my train of thought. So again, for about 6 years straight, I was just buying movies on and off. Maybe no more than 50 movies a year. Maybe. That's a huge maybe. Maybe 100 on a really good year, especially around 2017, 18, 19, 20, around those last 4 years after I graduated college. And I did do a few jobs that were getting me money, and I was starting to save up my money a little bit more. But yeah, so that's the thing. So probably about 100 movies is probably the most I ever bought in a single year. 2020 hits. Pandemic, and I basically stopped buying movies because I was no longer going back and forth from school, because on my travels from back and forth from school there was a Best Buy, and I would I would usually just go head into Best Buy, and even if it's just one movie, I would buy that one movie. So that was basically my trip from college when I went to MDC from 2017 to 2020. That's what I did. And again, the pandemic hit, and I basically stopped buying movies. From 2020 to 2022, I really didn't buy movies. Within that time span, I probably bought no more than 50 movies. So think about that. Buying, give or take, 100 movies for the past 4 years, to buying just 50 movies, give or take, and for the next 4 years in that whole time span, that does something. I'll admit, that kind of does something. So, like I said, 2023 happened. I finally got my first job, and I started saving up money. Now, I'll be honest, immediately my first thought wasn't to buy movies. That honestly wasn't my first thought at all. My first thought was, hey, let me start saving up money so I could do stuff in the future with friends or whatever have you. That was quite literally just my train of thought. Also, because at the time, since I was a new hire at Banana Republic, I wasn't given enough hours, so it's one of those things that one week I'd be put on for one day, and that would be $50 for that week. The next week, I probably wouldn't be put on at all, and then the week after that, I'd be put on again just for one day, so that's just $50, and then the week after that, maybe 2 days, so that'd be $100, and then again to no income at all because I wasn't put on for that week. That's when I first started off. Eventually, I did end up working with Trivia Nation with my friend, and that started literally Halloween of 2023, and from there, I started developing more income. Cut to Christmas 2023, or right before Christmas of 2023. I basically got an Amazon gift card, and I bought a few movies. If I'm not mistaken, I bought The Third Man, I bought the 2 Hunger Game movies, the last two, not Catching Fire, whatever, parts 1 and 2, whatever those movies are, and Top Gun Maverick. Those were the movies I bought with that gift card. I think maybe I bought one more. If I did, I'll put it right there, but I'm pretty sure it was just those 4. But at that moment, I realized, hey, now that I have disposable income, now that I'm making money, maybe I should start buying movies. And that's basically what I did. That's on top of the fact that Best Buy was already, by that point, no longer selling movies. Target was on their way to not sell movies anymore by that point, too. So I was one of those things, maybe I should really start buying movies, looking into movies. So yeah, that's what I did throughout 2024. I bought movies. Lots of movies. It's one of those things that I would talk to one of my friends, which I know he's going to see this video because I'm going to send it to him afterwards, and he'll probably be cheering after I say this next part, or at the very least at the end of the video. But it's one of those things that I would consistently be telling my friend, like, hey, there's a sale on Kino Lorber, or there's a sale on Criterion or Shout Factory, and it's a really good sale. I'm going to start buying movies again. And he'd be like, no, don't buy movies. Please, don't buy movies. Save money. Don't be dumb. Don't buy movies. It's one of those things that I'd go to Dollar Tree, and I've discussed this, and so my previous hauls from last year, I'd often go to Dollar Tree, and because movies are $1 or $1.25, because, I'd go in there and, there's a movie. Even if it's just one movie, I'd buy it. And I'd buy that, and I'd buy that. Last year, I started really getting into thrifting. Granted, it wasn't thrifting clothes. It was thrifting movies. And again, since in thrift shops and Goodwill, a movie's about $3 average, I would buy a bunch of movies in bulk, especially with thrift shops specifically. You get a lot of these random movies that you've never heard of, or you get these movies that you typically wouldn't see. Like, I got a lot of Spanish or Hispanic or Mexican cinema in my collection because of thrift shop. I randomly found Triumph of the Will at Goodwill, so of course I'm gonna buy that. There's a lot of stuff that I just found at Goodwill that I'm like, you usually don't see this, not even on Amazon, because it's very hard to find, or Depop, or any of these other things. So I would buy them. Speaking of online, like I said, there's a lot of sales on Criterion, on Kino Lorber, on Shout Factory, Arrow, Severin, whatever. So I'd be looking at these things. I have my subscription list ready. And I'm like, oh, there's a sale. Let's see, what should I plan? Like, I should really buy this. Or I want to buy this. I want to buy this for the collection. And again, very early on, and this is one of those things that kind of stopped a little bit after summer. I want to say around August, this part did stop. But very early on in the year, I looked at Macari, I looked at Depop, and I was like, ooh, let me go through this, and I will buy movies from Depop and Macari in bulk. So why am I saying all this? Like I said, the first 6 years, from 2014 to 2020, I was buying maybe 50 movies a year, 50 to 100 movies a year. Okay? Average. 2020 to 2023, realistically, I maybe bought 50 movies in that whole time. Last year alone, and I did the math, and granted there may be some deviation, but basically, last year alone, I bought 583 movies. I bought 583 movies. That is probably more movies than I bought in the entirety of my first 6 years buying movies, give or take, or maybe just about as much, if I'm being completely honest. And honestly, that is embarrassing. I'm going to be completely honest with you. That is embarrassing. At the end of 2023 or early 2024, I don't remember when, but I did a full collection video of however many movies I had during that time. And I forget the number right now, so I'll write it right there, but it was somewhere in the upper 2000s that I had. I'm pretty sure by this point I have over 3,000, if not close to 3,000 movies. I almost bought 600 movies, essentially. If you want to round up, I practically bought close to 600 movies. And again, that is, I feel so, like, really thinking about that, I feel so dirty, I guess would be the right word, or just so weird to having to admit that. And it's one of those things that there were times when I was at Goodwill or dollar store, or I was looking on Amazon or whatever, and I was putting in my credit card, or I was, paying or whatever, and I would just see the price tag, $50, $60, $100, whatever. And there's a part of me that was like, oh, that sucks because I don't have that money anymore. But then there's the part that was tricking me on the other side. It's like, but I have these movies I'm going to watch eventually. Eventually. That's the key word right there. Eventually. I actually had somebody comment on one of my videos, Jared Osborne, who's been a longtime follower of me since even my old channel. And he asked me something like, oh, how often do you watch movies or something like that? And at the time, I think I responded something like 3 or 4 movies per week. And that is true, or that was true. Because here's the other thing. Starting in October, yes, I was still buying movies, but I kind of just stopped watching movies at the same time, which was very weird. Now, I'll admit some of it does have to do with my religion. It's not like I'm not saying, oh, I'm a Christian, so I can't watch movies. I'm not saying that. But it's one of those things that, and reading the Bible, and getting connected with the Word, it's one of those things that I really start to come to grips and realize, like, oh, this is not good for me. This is an addiction. I am doing these things because I'm living in the flesh. I'm trying to satisfy my own needs instead of satisfying my spiritual needs, which is what I really need to do. And even outside of religion, it's not healthy to have this much stuff. It's not healthy to spend my money, like I said, $100 average on this stuff. It's one of those things that right now it is putting a financial strain on me, because having a lot of that money right now would save me, and now it doesn't. Now I can't be saved, so to speak, because I don't have that money, because I spent it on nearly $600 worth of movies, or $600 on 600 movies, whatever, you know what I mean. So what's the next step? Basically, not buy movies. I mean, I know it's one of those things that's easier said than done, but that realistically is the next step. Not buy movies. Now, to be completely honest with you, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to basically largely, and I do mean heavily largely, limit my spending. And what do I mean by that? So one of the things I realized, so to speak, last year when I was buying all these movies is the fact that I really like Criterion. Criterion is a great company. I think we all know this. But at the same time, they're goddamn expensive. Like, really expensive. $40 for just one single Criterion. Jesus Christ. So, my plan for this year is to basically buy no more than, like, maybe 20 to 30 movies, to be honest. Because I still want to collect movies. And I'm singling out Criterion specifically because I think that's the company I want to invest in. If I'm going to invest my money in anything, it's going to be a company that has a very well-curated list. That's not to say that Shout Factory doesn't really have a well-curated list, if I'm being honest. But that's not to say something like Kino Lorber or Arrow or Severin or some of these other companies don't have a well-curated list. But I think we all know the king is Criterion. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to wait for their sales, if I'm being honest. Criterion usually has 4 sales throughout the year. They have 2 online sales. One, give or take, February, March, so it's coming up right now. And one, give or take, August, September, I want to say. So there's that. And as well as there's 2 Barnes & Noble sales, which usually happens one in the spring and one in the fall. So that's basically what I'm going to be waiting for. And aside from that, the only other 2 times I'm going to buy movies will be on my birthday. And given the fact that the Criterion sale may more or less correlate with my birthday, that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. And for Christmas/Black Friday, somewhere around that time, because why not? That's basically it. That's really the only times you're going to see me buy anything. I just want to come out here and say that that's how I'm going to be dealing with buying movies for this year. Because honestly, it is embarrassing. I remember I was talking to another friend they know that I like movies, I like collecting movies, but Black Friday, or that Black Friday haul, so to speak, I showed them all the movies I had bought for that during that weekend or that week or that month, whatever. And they're really good friends because there was actually two of them. They're both really good friends, and it's one of those things like I could kind of see their reaction. They're like, "This guy's kind of dumb," essentially, or like this. It was almost like they were kind of judging me, or I don't know if judging is the right word, but I could kind of tell they were concerned. And then like just seeing that look on their face, I'm like, it kind of really made me realize like, oh, this is not good. Also, talking with my mom to a certain degree about this, and it helped me really put those priorities aligned. And it's one of those things I was thinking like I said, I have close to 3,000 movies, give or take. And keep in mind, these aren't all movies. Some of these are like TV series, TV seasons, and that's even greater amount of time right then and there. Because of TV like I'm looking at Deadwood right here. I have all 3 seasons as Deadwood. I'm guessing that's about 30 to 40 episodes, each one about 1 hour long. So that's about 40 hours, and I might be getting the number of episodes wrong, but that's besides the point. You understand what I'm trying to say. I have that. I have The Walking Dead somewhere here. I have, a bunch of other TV series. I have, like, the first 2 seasons of Breaking Bad somewhere. Like, I have a bunch of these TV series, and, like, that adds more time on top of, like, all the other movies I need to watch here. Where it's probably an average of 2 hours, give or take, Yeah, something like Bedtime Stories is, like, an hour and a half, but I also have Titanic, which is close to, like, 3 hours, Like, I also have that. I'm never going to have enough time. Even if I were to just start right now and do nothing else but watch everything in my collection right now, it will take me like more than probably this year has, more time than this year has to go through everything. It's one of those things. Again, I have close to 3,000 things, movies, TV shows, whatever, in my collection. If I start right now and just watch one movie a day and don't add anything else into the collection, it's going to take me over 10 years to go through all this. For the longest time, one of my main excuses as to why I'm buying so much stuff was because, well, my initial excuse was, like I said, I had a DVD player, might as well use it, Over time, and as this channel goes on to prove, so to speak, I wanted to become an actor and later on a filmmaker. So my logic was, okay, let me buy movies so I can learn from the greats, so I can learn from Kubrick and Scorsese and Hitchcock and all these other great directors. Let me learn some great acting skills from like Nicholson and DiCaprio and all these other great actors and actresses and whatever have you. Just let me learn all this and watch to learn. And I feel to a certain degree, especially last year with what happened last year with buying 600 movies essentially, that was the excuse I was clinging on to. That, oh, I'm going to watch these movies eventually and have fun and I'm going to learn from them. But at the same time, last year, I kind of came to another realization in terms of my acting career, and that is that I'm not sure I want that to be a career. I just literally last week I made a video where I literally said that I'm going to be shifting my priorities from acting and filmmaking to education. That's not to say I'm going to abandon filmmaking as a whole. I may still be doing that, but more so as a hobby than a career. So I'm still figuring it out, to be honest, but that kind of ties in with it as well. The reason I was buying so many movies was because I was using it as an excuse for an education for my career. And realistically, that's not really the truth. That's just an excuse I gave myself after a while. And I think part of it also has to do with the fact, like I said, between 2020 and 2023, I probably bought 50 movies, if that much. 2023, I finally had disposable income. And I kind of just went ham with it. And that's honestly the reality of the situation. So like I said, this year I'm gonna basically limit myself to not buy movies except for like some very special events or special dates. Basically my birthday, which is next month, and Black Friday, Christmas, that time of the season. And again, I'm only gonna limit myself to Criterion and when they have their 4 sales throughout the year. And given the fact that one of them probably is gonna correlate with my birthday, so be it. So yeah, this year you may not see any movie hauls. Maybe 1 or 2, and that's about it. But yeah, that's basically it in that regard. I really need to limit myself. And then like the last thing I want to say, and I'll be completely honest with you, this next part, I'm not confident in fully saying this. It's one of those things that I want to do, but I'm also not sure if I'm actually going to do, if I'm being completely honest with you. Because there is a part of me that's like, oh, this is media. And given the state of the world, where like Warner Bros is like making movies and then canceling them and never releasing them, for example. And we have examples of several pieces of media just being lost to time, for example. That is another excuse I've used in the past. So why I collect so much, because I want to have all this media in case it ever disappears from wherever. So I'll be completely honest. This next part that I'm gonna say, I'm not completely sure if I'm actually gonna do it. There is a part of me that wants to do it. There's also is a part of me that doesn't want to do it for that same reason, and it's one of those things you can very well call me out on and saying that's just an excuse for myself that I'm using for myself, and I'll completely agree with you. Maybe I'll do it, maybe not. I'm not completely sure, but the last thing I want to say is that I do want to give away or sell some of these stuff, some of the bulk here, because again, odds are I'm never gonna watch most of these movies, to be honest with you. My one plan for that, if I do end up selling these movies, it's none of my Blu-rays. I know for sure I'm not going to sell any of my Blu-rays right off the bat. So it's basically going to be the DVDs. And also, yeah, that's it. The DVDs are the things I have most of in bulk. So there is that too. There's going to be mostly the DVDs I'm going to be selling. Maybe. There's not really any Blu-rays I would sell. Kind of going on from there. No collections. I'm not going to sell any collections. So like I have like a few Alfred Hitchcock DVD collections. I'm not gonna sell any of those Alfred Hitchcock movie collections, for example. I have a few Roger Corman stuff here. I'm not gonna sell any of the Roger Corman collections. So I'm not gonna sell any collections, and that's really it. No Blu-rays and no collections. I'm gonna sell. Everything else should more or less be up for grabs, I would say. But at the same time, I'm still not even sure if I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that's basically it. I just want to admit that to you guys. I have an addiction, which is buying movies, and what I'm doing, the steps I'm taking to get not addicted to it anymore, or not do it anymore, because it is at the end of the day, it's financial strain, and it's not healthy for me to be spending this much on all this movies. I don't know, it just feels weird saying this out loud and admitting it to y'all, even though I feel like to a certain degree some of you, if you have watched my videos, probably knew this by now. So yeah. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, to be completely honest with you. But, yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. Also, well, just one more thing I want to say in regards to that, and I forget if I already mentioned this right now. But also, since October, I haven't really had the urge to watch movies like that anymore on top of that. Like, really binge watch movies like that. Which is kind of sucks, because in about a week or two, I'm supposed to be saying, or, discussing my top 10 favorite movies of next year. And it's very hard when I really don't have the urge to watch any of the movies that came out last year, like The Brutalist, for example, or what else is nominated for at the Oscars right now? Like The Brutalist or Sing Sing or any of these other movies. Like it makes it hard when like, yeah, I do want to watch it, but like I don't really have the urge to watch it because I'm just not invested in watching movies like that anymore, And that's the other thing. I have all these movies in this collection. But then over time, because of course that's how media works and how the world works, there's going to be movies that are going to come out, and I'm going to want to watch those movies eventually. Or I'm going to want to watch, whatever's on Netflix or whatever's on Hulu or whatever, and I'm going to ignore all these movies as well. So there's also that kind of vicious cycle to it. To be completely honest, I'm still figuring it out. But the one thing I will say is that I am going to basically heavily limit my spending habits this year. I don't expect myself to buy anything more than like probably even 30 movies, if I'm being honest. I feel like even 20 movies this year will be too much. Unless I get like a collection that has like, 10 movies, and that's one thing, but like, that's besides the point. 20 to 30 movies, I feel like that's all I'm going to get, and just take it back to basics to when I first started collecting movies. 20 to 30 movies for the first year or two is probably what I did, and that's, yeah, and back then, that was probably too much for me. Imagine way back when, 12 years ago, or 14 years ago, my bad. Imagine 14 years ago if I would have told my young self at 12 years old, like, hey, by the way, there's going to be a year where you buy almost 600 movies. And the sad thing is, back then, 12-year-old me would be like, wow, really? That's great. Honestly, it's very sad. And I do want to change that, and yeah, that's basically it. Criterion will be the only, foreseeably, it's the only thing I'm going to spend money on. Unless it's like something very wild that I just need to get my hands on, and even then, need to get my hands on. It's something that I'm gonna have to really consider now, because that's the thing. Last year I was just buying movies for the sake of buying movies after a while. This year I really want to be intentional about the movies I buy. And that's why I'm limiting myself so much. That's why this year I'm not planning on going to Dollar Tree or Goodwill, because that was the biggest triggers for me to buy. I would just like drive past Goodwill, drive past Dollar Tree, and be like, oh, I'm gonna go there. And I'd actually get upset if I didn't buy something. Especially at Dollar Tree. Yeah, that's the plan. I know this video may seem kind of jumbled in all the points I was making, but that's the reality of the situation. But yeah, that's basically it for now. This is Mart, signing off.